Hi, welcome back to Straight Talk, ladies and gentlemen. It's going to be one like we always do every Tuesdays and Saturdays at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Now, one of the things that I want to focus in on that I cannot fathom that YouTube took down all of the videos. Took them down. Like it was nothing, like it was a threat to somebody, and it must have been because they're talking about the United States of Africa and what Africa is doing as a continent and the global south is doing together. There is a deep binding alliance of all of the brown countries in the world. Well, to be honest with you, all the countries are brown. But these invaders we call white today have taken over Europe, America, and so on and so on. So out of the 8 billion people in the world, is only 120 million at best of these white people we call white. So I just want to make sure that you guys are aware of what's going on, how that's going on, why that's going on, and what is interrupting my flow, so to speak. You know, I really hated that they took down those videos. But anyways, we're gonna go and do the best that we have and try to finagle whatever resources and or news that we can find that is pertinent to the situation and what is going on worldwide and how that all of that is forcing a new global world order that is black. So yeah, I should have been on Saturday night, but it was my birthday, so I couldn't do that. I mean, my wife wouldn't allow me to do that. So we just had a skunk drunk time, man. I get drunk one time a year. That's on my birthday. And I don't drink that much. You know what I mean? I had 2 beers and 1 glass of rum and coke. That was it for me. So by the time 10:30 rolled around, I was done. But anyway, we're gonna go through these, and we're not gonna be here for too long. As to what really is going on in this world that we're living in, and why they're doing what they're doing, and what that means for people of color. So we're gonna go straight on to the share screen. Huh? So now we're here, and we're just gonna go right into the first one. Now I'm gonna do about 10, 11 minutes, and then the rest of it I'm gonna let it run through. But you gotta be able to determine who is your enemy and who is your friend. A great movie, The Godfather, said, if you keep your friends close but your enemy closer, you'll be better and wiser for it. Also, an important phrase that if you kill your enemy, you never have to worry about your friend. That is so true. And in Africa now, and even in worldwide, you got to be careful about who you are teaming with. Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso, I don't think they would ever turn on each other the way that, oh boy, oh, the way that Niger had done on them, and still being France's bitch. To me, I would kill Tinubu. He committed treason against all of Africa, the United States of Africa. He knows what's going on because he's still trying to hold on to what little power that he got to make him feel important. So fuck that. I would kill him and kill everybody that is against the overall or overarching goal of Africa, and that is unity. And he is displaying his ass off, not for the people of Niger and the Benin people as well, the Talan, But the overwhelming motivation for these two idiots is to preserve their own power. It's beyond that now. And the fact that they know about the Constitution of Africa and what that means and the U.S. Yeah, I guess we'll call it the U.S. Supreme Court of Africa will be on that ass. So if they committed treason against the United States of Africa, you know what that means. I wouldn't be given no lifetime jail time. You get automatic death sentence. So, hold on. So that would be it for me. So let's go on and get right on into Ponete en Silencio. And we'll go right into the video, and I'll be right back. I'm going to run it for about 11 minutes.
The West, and every foreign force that ever called Africa a pawn knew something had shifted. This wasn't just a coup. It was a declaration of war, not the kind with missiles, the kind with sovereignty, and the continent felt it. Drop your take, because what comes next might flip Africa's map. Googling his name, Traore had seized global attention, a 34-year-old captain who rose from barracks to power, not by begging the system for space, but by breaking it. He didn't come with speeches scripted by Western consultants. He came with a mission, take back control. When his government kicked French troops out of Burkina Faso, shut down military bases, and shredded defense agreements, Paris called it betrayal. But to millions of Africans watching from the sidelines, it looked like justice. Comment below, because this rebellion just found its first flag bearer. Across TikTok and X, young Africans began sharing clips of Traore with captions like "He's built different." From Accra to Addis Ababa, his face became a meme, then a symbol. Not of chaos, but of clarity. A leader who said what everyone else only dared to whisper: Africa is done kneeling. And in that moment, a post-colonial awakening began to take form, with a red beret, sharp rhetoric, and a plan. What happens when a generation stops asking for permission? Stick around, the answer is coming. The French called it destabilizing, the EU froze aid. Analysts warned of chaos, but in Ouagadougou, crowds danced in the streets. Traore wasn't just reclaiming land, he was reclaiming narrative. His military doctrine, built at home, his economic plan, rooted in dignity, his army, the Panther Battalion, not trained in foreign academies, but on the soil they swore to defend. They didn't chant political slogans, they roared sovereignty or death. Is this the beginning of Africa's liberation or a dangerous gamble? Drop your take, because the next chapter is crazier. But this isn't just about one man. The shockwave hit harder because Traore wasn't alone. Mali, Niger, and Guinea started echoing his tone. The sovereign bloc was born, a united front against neo-colonialism and foreign manipulation. Together, they expelled troops, shut down media channels, and plotted a new regional currency. The CFA franc, long a chain around West Africa's ankle, was now under threat. Western powers panicked. Russia and China watched, grinning. Do you think the West will retaliate? Comment below, because the whispers from Ouagadougou are only getting louder. As the world scrambles to make sense of it, Traore stands tall, sanctioned, criticized, painted as a threat. But the more they push, the more he becomes a legend. This isn't about politics anymore. It's about legacy. He's not just fighting for Burkina Faso. He's fighting for every African youth who ever felt voiceless, for every nation told to sit down and wait. He came for sovereignty, and the world just found out why. Could Traore be the blueprint for Africa's next generation? Or the spark of a storm no one can contain? Drop your prediction, because this revolution is already rewriting the rules. The headlines called it a coup. But to those on the ground, to those who watch from rooftops in Ouagadougou, from cafes in Bamako, from market stalls in Niamey and Conakry, it wasn't a coup. It was a correction. It was defiance with boots on the ground. And it was only the beginning. When Ibrahim Traore seized power in Burkina Faso, He didn't promise elections. He promised sovereignty, not the kind that comes with donor strings or press conferences, the kind you fight for. And within months, that fire spread across borders, igniting the creation of something the West never saw coming, the sovereign bloc. Is this the rebirth of Pan-Africanism or a geopolitical bomb waiting to explode? Drop your take, because what's coming next won't be in textbooks. Mali, Niger, Guinea. 4 nations that once stood as chess pieces are now kings on the board, not because they asked for permission, but because they stopped asking. These weren't just alliances on paper. They were forged in the heat of shared humiliation from years of French bases that brought no peace, from aid packages that deepened dependence, from sanctions that punished sovereignty. So they turned inward. Then they turned to each other. The sovereign bloc was born, and the map of West Africa began to fracture. Do you think the world underestimated this alliance? Comment below, because they're about to find out why that was a mistake. When the West hit back with sanctions and suspended aid, they expected retreat. Instead, they got resistance. Instead of fear, they triggered fuel. Burkina Faso and its new partners doubled down. State-run economies replaced foreign consultants. Training camps rose in rural zones. Former rebels, farmers, university students all stood in line, not for paychecks, but for pride. And from this movement, something darker, sharper, and stronger emerged. The Panther Army. Is this the rise of Africa's first truly sovereign military force? Debated, because the next chapter has clause. Black berets, raised fists, symbols once buried with Sankara and Lumumba were reborn. The Panthers weren't trained in Paris. They were forged in the fire of betrayal, trained to never kneel again. Their oath wasn't to a regime. It was to an idea, Africa, owned by Africans. And while Western analysts dismissed it as dangerous populism, TikTok and X exploded. This is what sovereignty looks like, one viral caption read, but the world didn't just scroll, it shivered. Will the Panther Army rewrite what military power means in Africa? Drop your prediction, because things are getting tactical. And in the background, shadow diplomacy moved fast. While Western media focused on democracy scorecards, Traore was making calls to Moscow, to Ankara, to Tehran. It wasn't loud, it wasn't even confirmed, but it was happening. Arms deals whispered in dark halls. Energy talks behind closed doors. Intelligence swaps in cafes far from cameras. This wasn't just posturing, this was positioning. The sovereign bloc wasn't isolating, it was realigning. Could these secret alliances trigger the return of a Cold War on African soil? Let us know, because some say it's already begun. By late 2024, the Sahel didn't just look different, it felt different. Western diplomats were pulled, French media outlets were banned, the CFA franc was under review, and youth collectives across the bloc were organizing not for protests but for governance. Community gardens, local currency trials, self-defense brigades, it was grassroots geopolitics in real time. The world called it unstable. The youth called it unstoppable. Is this decentralized revolution Africa's secret weapon? Tell us what you think, because old systems are cracking. But the stakes have never been higher. If this bloc succeeds, it reshapes Africa's future. If it collapses, it could justify every narrative of chaos the West has used for decades. Traore knows this. So do Goita, Tiani, and Downbauya. They're not just leaders, they're symbols, and symbols come with targets. Behind the speeches and hashtags are intelligence reports, infiltration attempts, and economic pressure that could crush any misstep. Will the sovereign bloc survive the storm or be broken from within? Comment below, because the final battle may not be fought with weapons, but with will. This is more than Burkina Faso's story now. It's Africa's test. 4 nations dared to dream. The question is, can they hold that dream when the world comes knocking? Stay locked in, because what comes next could change global power forever. They didn't see it coming. Not the generals in Paris, not the analysts in Washington, and definitely not the boardrooms of NGO that still saw Africa as a dependent project. But when rows of young men and women in black berets raised their fists under the Sahel sun, something ancient and defiant roared back to life. The Panther Army wasn't born in a lab or imported from foreign training programs. It was born in rage, in history, in Sankara's ghost and Lumumba's blood, and in Ibrahim Traore's refusal to kneel. Is this defiance or destiny? Drop your take, because this story rewrites every rule. Traore didn't just build an army, he built a doctrine, and it wasn't about numbers, missiles, or medals. It was about meaning. When he unveiled the Panthers, he didn't speak of counterterrorism or logistics. He spoke of pride, of identity. We will no longer outsource our defense or our dignity. He declared, the West called it militant nationalism, but the streets of Ouagadougou, they called it resurrection. Is this a new era of African defense or just dangerous theater? Comment below, because the mask is off. From their first march, the symbolism was unmistakable. The black berets echoed Sankara's revolution. Their formation, tight and unyielding, was a direct rejection of foreign command. Their chant, sovereignty or death, wasn't metaphor, it was a manifesto, and behind them, factories once idle were reactivated to produce local arms. No more waiting for Paris, no more contracts signed in Brussels. The doctrine was clear. If you want independence, you must build it in your own soil. Could this be the blueprint for post-colonial military identity? Drop your thoughts, because the echoes are growing louder. Youth across Africa watched and responded. Hashtags exploded. TikToks of drills went viral. Music artists sampled Panther speeches into anthems. Suddenly, defense wasn't a state secret, it was a cultural wave. One student in Dakar said, I don't want to move to France anymore. I want to fight for my land. The West read this as radicalization. The blog read it as rebirth. Do you think this energy will sustain or burn out? Comment now, because movements without roots fade fast. Internationally, the alarm bells rang. Think tanks labeled it extremist. French media warned of an African Taliban. Sanctions were considered. Aid packages were reviewed. But every criticism only amplified the movement. Traore responded not with apologies, but with acceleration. Panther enrollment surged. Youth brigades were formalized into community defense units. Schools began teaching history through the lens of resistance. Is the West fighting a leader or an idea too powerful to kill? Drop your prediction, because ideology doesn't die in sanctions. What makes the Panther dock so potent isn't just the boots on the ground. It's the mind beneath the beret. These aren't conscripts. They're believers. They memorize Sankara's speeches like scripture. They cite Lumumba in policy debates. They wear their defiance as identity. In a world where narratives define power, the Panthers are rewriting the script. One march, one chant, one factory at a time. Could this become Africa's new model of civil-military unity? Drop your take, because the old playbook is burning. Yet with every rise comes resistance. Intelligence reports suggest sabotage plots. Former allies now whisper betrayal. And deep within the bloc, questions emerge. Can a movement built on fire avoid burning itself? Can identity-based defense scale without descending into authoritarianism? The doctrine is untested at the level it's aiming for. And the world is watching. Will the Panther doctrine rise as Africa's defense future or crash under its own symbolism? Comment below, because the stakes are continental. Traore's revolution isn't with bullets alone. It's with memory, with pride, with a new generation that doesn't want charity, but challenge. And the Panthers, they aren't just soldiers, they're signals that Africa is done waiting, that sovereignty will be enforced not with apologies, but with doctrine. So what happens when ideology meets firepower, and both wear a beret? Stay tuned, because the world's not ready for the roar that's coming. When the world tuned in to hear another African leader deliver a speech, they expected the usual: appeals for aid, calls for partnerships, maybe a few jabs at colonial history. But Ibrahim Traore didn't come to plead. He came to proclaim, we are not anti-West, we are pro-Africa. He thundered, it wasn't just a slogan, it was a cultural earthquake. In that moment, Traore flipped the script, and the internet caught fire. TikToks, anthems, graffiti murals, and hashtags exploded overnight. The movement wasn't in parliaments. It was in the streets, on walls, and in every scroll. Comment your take, because this cultural uprising is...
I want to stop it there and give my comment, because if you can go back and see my previous video that I'd done where I was featuring Supreme African Breaking News and Supreme African News that they talk about the Black Panthers. And this is not some ragtag group of men and women or whatever the case may be. They are very, very serious. And to become a Black Panther, if you thought or you think becoming an MI6 or IDF or the Mossad or a Navy SEAL was rough and hard, it's 20 times harder. I mean, they go through some shit. And when they finish, if you got a Black Panther or Panthers on your ass, you better try to get your life insurance in order because you're going. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. So that was my response. Damn it, I hate it when that happens. That was my response to the video, and we're not even done yet. So Africa has its own naval fleet, submarine, and as I have said before, they out, blew, blew up the NATO warship. It is resting calmly and quietly with all of its men and women on the board at the bottom of the ocean. They were told to get the fuck out. Not all, not all of them left, and the one that stayed tried to show his fucking nuts, got his nuts cut off. They also told the America warship to get it the hell out of the Indian Ocean. It's not yours to be patrolling, and they got out. So we're looking at a whole nother level of fighting. And you know, white folks don't know how to fight. They learn how to fight from us. The military school in the United States, I forget the name of it, is based on Hannibal of Carthage. White boys do not know how to fight. But I keep going. We only got 10 minutes left.
Just getting started. What followed wasn't a policy document or a diplomatic roundtable. It was a cultural insurgency. Across Ouagadougou, murals of Traore appeared beside Sankara and Lumumba, painted not by the government, but by youth collectives with spray cans and a vision. Artists dropped tracks that throbbed with revolution. Lyrics echoed across cities. We won't bow, we build. On TikTok, clips of Traore's speeches were remixed with beats and tribal rhythms, transforming political defiance into viral soundtracks. Comment below if you've seen one, because the algorithms have picked a side. They called it #African Unchained, but it wasn't just a hashtag, it was a war cry. It became the heartbeat of a generation tired of seeing their continent through borrowed lenses. One post showed kids in Ghana dancing in paper berets. Another in Nairobi revealed a massive mural that read, "We don't need permission to exist." Every share, every like, every echo made one thing clear. Africa had found its digital voice. And it wasn't whispering. Is this the first social media revolution Africa owns on its own terms? Comment your prediction, because the digital battlefield is alive. This wasn't nostalgia for Pan-Africanism past. It was Pan-Africanism reloaded. Sankara had radio, Traore has TikTok. While Lumumba's speeches took weeks to circulate, Traore's defiance reached millions in minutes. Students quoted him in classrooms. DJ cut his speeches into club anthems. Poets in Kinshasa and Kampala swapped verses under the banner of sovereignty. It wasn't just politics, it was culture, and culture, weaponized correctly, is unstoppable. Could this be the rebirth of unity through rhythm and resistance? Debate it below, because this isn't just about borders anymore. Even Western media couldn't ignore it. The BBC called it cultural nationalism. CNN warned of ideological contagion. But Africans didn't need validation. They had virality. A new generation that grew up under the thumb of neoliberalism now dances to a different beat, one that chants sovereignty with swagger. Fashion labels ditched Western logos for local fabric. Schools revived pre-colonial history lessons. Pop stars turned their stages into pulpits of resistance. This wasn't just hype, it was hardwired identity. Could this cultural defiance outlast the algorithms trying to suppress it? Drop your thoughts, because the censorship battle may already be underway. But with every revolution comes infiltration. Whispers now swirl of global NGO and foreign influencers trying to co-opt the movement. Sponsored content dilutes the message, algorithms get tweaked, suddenly some hashtags disappear, some videos get flagged. Culture, the very engine of the uprising, now risks becoming a target, and yet the people persist. Underground collectives adapt, decentralized networks grow. This isn't just digital resistance, it's cultural evolution. Can this wave survive the pressure of corporate and geopolitical sabotage? Comment your take, because the cracks are beginning to show. Trayor knows what's at stake. That's why every speech doubles as a cultural manifesto. He doesn't just talk policies, he tells stories, he invokes ancestors. He honors Sankara, invokes the drums of dignity, and declares that the fight for Africa's soul isn't in embassies, it's in music videos, memes, and graffiti. And it's winning. Will culture remain the shield of sovereignty, or will it be the soft target foreign powers aim to exploit? Debate it below, because as long as culture roars, this revolution won't be silenced. He didn't blink, not when France pulled its troops, not when the IMF tightened its noose, not even when Western headlines labeled him a madman wrapped in military green. Ibrahim Traore stood still, facing the storm not as a soldier but as a symbol, and in that moment a line was drawn. Africa was no longer just resisting, it was rewriting the rules. Is this the final stand for freedom? Drop your thoughts below, because what comes next could shake the continent. The Sahel used to be France's chessboard, where colonial leftovers masqueraded as partnerships, but Traore flipped the board. When Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger joined forces to create the sovereign bloc, the old empire gasped. Guinea followed. ECOWAS panicked, and just like that, the West's decades, old grip on the region began to unravel. Western analysts called it instability. Africans called it rebirth. Could this be the rebirth of the real Africa? Comment below, because the ground is still shifting. As foreign aid was frozen, sanctions rained down like a colonial tantrum. France withdrew ambassadors, the IMF issued veiled threats, the media, they ran with headlines like Strongmen of the Sahel and West Africa's dangerous pivot. But on the streets of Ouagadougou, the story looked different. Billboards of Traore went up, music tracks dropped in his name, TikToks of youth chanting sovereignty or death went viral. Is this digital defiance or a real revolution? Let us know, because the Panthers are watching. In response to pressure, the bloc didn't fold, it doubled down. Talks began around a joint Sahelian currency to escape the CFA franc. Fuel reserves were pooled. Regional energy sharing agreements were inked. Military drills across the three capitals showed more than unity. They showed readiness. A message was being sent. We're done playing nice. The West may call it rebellion, but the bloc calls it resilience. Can a united Africa outmaneuver global giants? Sound off, because the plans are already in motion. But beneath the hope lies danger, not just from outside, but from within. Rumors swirl of assassination plots. Intelligence leaks hint at coups being engineered in shadows. The same playbook used to silence Sankara, Lumumba, and Gaddafi could return. Only this time, the youth are more aware, more connected, more prepared. Could history be preparing to repeat itself or finally rewrite the ending? Share your theory. Because this isn't a movie, it's happening. Inside Burkina Faso, security has become sacred. Traore has fortified not just his borders, but his legacy. The Panther Army, once mocked as cosplay nationalism, now serves as a real deterrent. With Russian hardware and Sahelian resolve, they train in fields scorched by betrayal and born of purpose. Their loyalty isn't to a man. It's to an idea, one that no bullet has ever been able to kill. Can ideology become armor in a modern Cold War? Drop your answer, because this doctrine is spreading. Meanwhile, ECOWAS is cracking. Its threats ring hollow as its credibility erodes. When the bloc rejected its mediation, it sent a loud message. Africa no longer negotiates on its knees, and as other nations watch, from Togo to Senegal, a question brews in every capital: who's next to break free? Could this be the moment when the map of Africa changes forever? Share your prediction, because new lines are being drawn. The West still holds cards: banking systems, trade routes, media control, but they're losing something more powerful: the narrative. From hashtags to headlines, the sovereign bloc has captured the imagination of a generation. It's not just about Burkina Faso anymore. It's about dignity, about agency, about a continent tired of being someone else's resource pit. Will the bloc survive long enough to build a new future? Or will outside forces crush the flame before it becomes fire? Debate it now, because history is watching. In one of his most explosive speeches, Traore said, "We are not anti-West, we are pro-Africa. But if you try to chain us again, we will break your hands." That quote alone lit up every corner of the internet. But the real fire is on the ground, in the training camps, in the parliament halls, in the minds of millions who no longer believe that their fate is tied to Paris or Washington. Could this be the first real break from neocolonialism in modern history? Let us know, because this chapter is still being written. So here we are, a continent on the edge of change, a rebellion that started with one captain now threatens to become a continental current. The stakes, everything, the risks unthinkable, the potential unlimited. Will Africa finally hold the line? Or will the old empire strike back harder than ever? Drop your take, because the next move belongs not to history books, but to you.
All right, we are on our way, ladies and gentlemen. So this is just unfolding quickly, rapidly, and white folks are scared to death. All head powers or European hegemony and uh, the economic stranglehold that they had on people in general and the political atmosphere that they were all in on, making sure that there was some form of unity that they were doing together against the global South. So you got to be able to take that and to see it for what it is. And this is where you'll find uh, how important unity is and how important white folks fear unity. Hey, hey, Bobby. So this is where we're at the crossroads. You're either going to go left or we're going to go right. White nations are falling as black people rise, confirming who the chosen ones are. This is 30 minutes. I'm going to take a 15-minute block, and I'll be right back.
Hey, anyone who thrived in whiteness, I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it was fun. I hope that you guys assimilated, had your little picnics and your little dinners and your little jobs and your little businesses. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it was fun. Now that it's crumbling to the ground, I hope you see that this is a black person's world. Good luck. The fundamental problem with it is that the European continent is bankrupt. It is resource light. It has virtually no natural resources. It required an empire to feed it on sweetheart terms with the energy that it needed, with the minerals, and with the wherewithal for an industrial life like Germany once had, like Britain once had, but shorn of that empire. And the days of European empire are long gone. There are still some hangovers dotted around the place, but by and large, the European days of empire are gone. We have nothing except our added value skills, uh, academic skills, medical skills, skills in various high tech fields. but we can't even make a computer. We can't even make a mobile phone without Bolivia. We can't make a computer without the DRC, the Congo. And the rising powers will simply not allow us to reconstitute ourselves as a European empire, assuming Britain, not a member of the EU, is regarded as being a part of that European empire. It will never fly. It will never go off the ground. It will be like the dodo, unable to fly, plump, and a very easy target for the new kids on the block. Black people are rising as white nations are falling apart. That's my title, I think, confirming who are the chosen ones. Since I was young, I grew up knowing that white nations are the chosen ones, white people are the chosen ones. Why? Because of the mentality they put on us. When we went to school, this how we were taught. This white man discovered this, Vasco da Gama discovered this, Dr. Livingstone did this. So automatically as a child, we grew up knowing that white people are the chosen ones. When we were watching movies about Jesus, about Israelites, they were painted all white. That's automatically we believe that they are chosen ones. Now, back then, I think I was still living in a lie that black people never did anything, in a lie that black people history started from colonization, from slavery. But right now, I see black people rising each and every day, and white nations are falling apart. It's confirming to me that they were not a chosen one, but they built their empires on top of lies. Now, Grand Rising, my family. Welcome back to my YouTube commentary. I love you so much. Okay, I love you so much, and I thank you so much for being here. Now, I said this for centuries. They have been telling black people they were cast. And even ourselves, we believe that. And even I've had interviews of black people believing that Africa is cast. Black people are inferior. As ourselves as black people, we were declaring by our own mouth that we are not enough to them. Okay? Now, what's happening right now is prophetic. What's happening right now, I'll say it is spiritual, because their system that we trusted, their system that we thought it's mighty, it is collapsing. Their economy is shaking. Their politics divided. Their societies are confused. Okay, but at the same time, black people, the very people that are tried to break, very people that they tried are standing stronger, are standing taller, and more united than ever before. Now, this, as I said, it is not a coincidence. It is prophetic. It is history catching up. It's God of black people, the creator who never abandoned black people, showing the whole world exactly who his chosen ones are. Let's watch these clips and then we continue. From the United States to Europe, it truly could not be more clear that Western civilization, the greatest civilization that ever has and ever will be, is over. We are living in the ruins of a once great civilization, and what we see around us is just the twitches of the already dead body. We don't produce, we don't create, we don't dream, we don't excel, we don't act. And what's so horrible about this is think about the sheer amount of blood, sweat, and tears of kings, of saints, of warriors, of the most incredible, brilliant intellectual minds that the world has ever seen that went into creating Western civilization and also went into the effort to give it to us as the heirs. And what are we doing? What was all of that for? What was all of that sacrifice for? So that we could have same-day Amazon delivery, so that we could sit in bed all day watching Netflix and smoking joints or taking out a loan for a Chipotle burrito? We are comfortably numb while the world literally burns and people are getting murdered in the street. The barbarians are not only within the walls, but they are in charge of our politics, our courts, our education, our entertainment, everything. While we distractedly feed off of the carcass of what's left of the West. And here's the rub, because clearly progressivism is not the answer. That's nothing. But neither is so-called modern-day conservatism. The answer is not to flee the cities and go live where there's no other people, or to never leave your house, or whatever else. Why should we have to hide, run, and scatter? The onus rests completely and entirely on you to get up and act, or else we will all be culpable for the greatest civilizational loss of all time. But what's the answer? The only way that we are going to get out of this is a major unification around a single force and one common conviction, and that is Jesus Christ. He is the one who built Western civilization to such excellence and such glory and such achievement, and it
Man, it happened a lot of damn mind. Black people created every civilization on the planet. We created America. The 13 colonies became the 13 states that were done by and maintained by the son and grandson of King James the Fourth. We did that. This is our shit. This is Turtle Island. It all belongs to black folk, and every square mile on the earth belongs to black folk. I don't know what the fuck she talking about. Fucking crazy. Then again, white bitches and hoes are always fucking crazy. They done lost their damn mind, and they are swinging on black man's dick. I'm telling you, it's gonna be one. White boy ain't shit. They don't want the white boy no more. They don't want the white boy no more. Let's continue.
is only through him that we will be able to have any chance at saving the West, and I truly believe it will
Saving
be
the
by the
whites.
skin of our teeth.
Western civilization is collapsing right now. It's not just the United States, or just the UK, or just Canada, or just the country you happen to live in, or just a country or countries you happen to not like. It's the United States, Canada, pretty much all of Europe, possibly Australia, possibly New Zealand. It's the whole shebang. It's not just one country or even one region. Follow me for more advice on how to set up location-independent income so you can escape the collapsing West.
The continent of Africa is circa where the US was 150 years ago. It's where Central and Southeast Asia was about 25, some might even say 30, 40 years ago. I'm a numbers guy, so you'll excuse me. All you've got to do is just look at the numbers and understand the metadata. We're now 1.3 billion people, 54 countries it was, now 55 with the splitting of the Sudan. Of those, there are 4,000 different languages and indigenous dialects. There are over 1,000 different tribes. Those are the high-level numbers. If you dig even deeper, look at just the median age. The median age of an average African is 19. The median age of an average Nigerian is 17. So I want you to think about it this way. Nigeria has 200 million plus people. Half of those people are so young that they're not yet economically active. Here's what that means. So if I want to understand what the investment case is for investing in Nigeria, I look at the fact that you've got 200 million people. Half of them are unemployed because they can't yet work. And when they can start to work, they're all going to need the things we all buy. They're going to need cars, they're going to need homes, they're going to need bank accounts, they're going to need medical insurance. All of these are things that they're going to need. They're going to have children, get married. All of these are the investment cases for the continent.
Europe has fallen, not in the tidy cinematic way they like to imagine. No grand finale with church bells tolling over a misty battlefield. No noble speeches carved into marble. No, Europe has fallen the way bread rots when left in the rain. The way a chandelier crashes in slow motion, scattering glass teeth.
Look, Europe has fallen because these bitches and boys and bastards don't know what the fuck they doing. How in the fuck do you run a great economy into the ground? Europe, just France is $4 trillion in debt. America, $38 trillion in debt. Now they're trying to pass it on to the XRP ledger, and for everybody that's holding the dollar, they get fucked. You know what I mean? White boys are woefully inadequate in doing what needs to be done because they are boys. They're playing the Wizard of Oz game, and the curtain has been pulled back, and all you see is these little boys masturbating. That's it. They don't give a fuck. They went to sleep for 100 years, and this is the rabbit and the tortoise story. The tortoise is Africa, and the rabbit is white people. They went to sleep for 100 years, and now they woke up only to find Africa and the black man and woman and black people, universally speaking, worldwide, have won the race. Political, economic, spiritual, and physical. They're done.
Across the floor, the way a once arrogant banquet table is now overrun with rats, the silk tablecloth sagging under the weight of mold and maggots. This isn't the fall of Rome. It's the fall of a nursing home. It's the collapse of a myth held together by powdered wigs, imperial cosplay, and the brittle bones of a continent that lived far too long off of other people's stolen futures. The currency, weak. The birth rates, a nosedive into extinction. The cultures, reduced to museum gift shops and TikTok videos about heritage pastries. Their once mighty empires are now theme parks, visited by tourists who pay to watch them pretend they still matter. Paris smells like piss and burnt sugar. London drowns under its own rain, and Berlin pretends that techno is a civilization. They're clinging to NATO like a drowning man clings to a floating door, except the door is also on fire, and it's made of debt. Every invention they stole now runs better elsewhere. Every colony they bled is outpacing them in growth. Every lie they told is now archived, translated, and live streamed back to them in 4K. Europe has fallen not because it was defeated in battle, but because it ran out of people who believed in it. Its own children are jumping ship, refusing to speak the languages of greed and conquest, turning their back on a legacy that smells like gunpowder, incest, and grave dirt. The cradle of civilization has become the hospice of history. Its only exports are nostalgia and weapons it can't afford to replace. And the worst part, they can't even pretend anymore. The mask has slipped. The paintings have cracked. The crown jewels are just shiny rocks in a glass box, guarded by a man in a funny hat who can't afford dental care.
You're not doomed yet, but and in all of world history, there has never been a civilization that has so opened its doors to another civilization that is openly hostile to it. So this is unprecedented. Your ancestors of Europe, when I describe it in my books, as I write about history, fought tooth and nail to prevent Islam from entering and conquering Europe. Because that was one of the grand plans that went on for century after century. From the east, the Turks were trying to enter Constantinople. They surrounded Vienna in 1683. And before that, the Muslims, I told you, went up into Tours in France in 732, 1,000 years later. This was an actual goal. And now, Western Europe is saying, oh, none of that matters. It was a misunderstanding. Come on in. But they haven't changed. That mentality, when I say they, that's obviously I'm simplifying. The mentality that I've described is part of Islam. It's an Islamic concept. So the Islamic State, you're told, oh yeah, they have nothing to do with Islam. They've twisted it. No, they haven't. They are a representation of what Islam, the caliphs, the sultanates, the emirates, that's how they operate. The heads of Islam, the grand imams, the muftis said the same exact thing. And so that is what it is. Again, it's not my point to arguing, oh, well, this particular migrant wants to conquer you. Maybe he doesn't. Maybe he's looking for a good life. I understand that, and that's what makes it complicated. But to just open your borders completely to that demographic, which has within it, not all of it, but within it, that kernel of animosity for Christians and so-called infidels, and the imperative to conquer the world in the name of jihad for Allah, which they're the good guys, keep in mind. They never see themselves as the bad guys. This is one of the issues with all conflict. They're not bad guys. They're good guys in their lives. They're the bad guys because they're infidels. And they're trying to bring the light of Islam to you. So that's another aspect of how moral, or the morality that they feel. They're the good guys, okay, in doing this. Because look at you, Denmark and Europe, you're all dissipated drunks and, profligates, and, there's no real... I'm sharing with you their arguments because I read it and I hear it. So they're bringing to you goodness, okay? But before, your ancestors, because I guess they had their own social order and their own goodness, and it was called Christianity, were able to fight it. But I guess in this current void of sort of this atheistic climate, anything goes, and who's to say they're wrong? Maybe they're right, etc., etc. And now you have what's happening. So it's a very unprecedented experience. A lot of people talk about the Roman Empire, this sort of thing happened, but it didn't. And we get into that. It was actually, they were still cognizant of trying to maintain their own social, cultural mores, Rome. And it fell to the Goths and the Germanic peoples. And I'm just saying, some people use this analogy. But in this case, this is completely your doing. Not you, but it's Europe's doing. Okay, you're bringing a hostile force that's openly hostile, and lo and behold, when I look where Muslims are, I see chaos and violence and criminality and rape and grooming in England. Okay, that's what always happened under Islam. Okay, so is there a hope? I think so. I hope so in time, but it's so bad that it even had to get to this point. You know, it's such an abnegation and betrayal of your own heritage, of these men and women who fought and died to preserve your way of life against an open hostile force, and now they're being welcomed in, and why not? It's okay. So I guess so. It's a matter of time.
So where's the hope? So where's the hope? You say
the hope is to wake up, wake up and see what reality and what I'm talking about, and understand the history and the doctrine of Islam and what Islam is all about. Islam is unequivocally hostile.
Welcome back. Now, when you look around the world today, when you look at Europe countries, when you look at America, United Kingdom, economies crisis or economic crisis after economic crisis is hitting them up. In France, protests in the streets. In Britain, the empire that once claimed to rule the seas, okay? People can barely afford energy. It is reality. It is on the table. We are seeing it. People can barely afford food. In America, the so-called land of free or land of the free, okay? Divisions are tearing the nations apart or the nation apart. Their politics are in chaos. Their economies are unstable. Their young people are losing faith in the very systems their ancestors built. Why? Why are they losing faith in the system that their ancestors built? Because their ancestors built the system in the back of black people through lies, through genocide. They soaked the system in the blood. Okay? Now, there are societies which once looked so confident, so proud, are now confused or are now consumed by fear, depression, and hopelessness. I mean, while nations are falling, to be precise, while white nations are falling, it is not by accident. The falling is not by accident. They are falling because every system built on oppression, every system built on lies, eventually destroys itself. You cannot enslave people. You cannot colonize nations. You cannot steal resources and expect your empire to stand forever. Never. And when you look closely, there is a divine law that says everything done in darkness must come to light, and everything unjustly built must eventually collapse. Now, when you look at America, the very wealth of that nation was built on the backs of enslaved Africans. Wall Street itself was once a slave market. Cotton, sugar, tobacco, the industries that build the greatness of America, the industries that build the influence of America, the influence of the industries that made America to be great, all of them were watered, all of them were trimmed, all of them were taken care by black people, by black blood. And now, the same America is collapsing under its own lies. Why? Because the truth is coming out. There's fighting between themselves, drowning in debt, unable to face its truth. Not America alone. Look at Europe right now. Their museums are full of stolen African golds. You go to Europe countries, you go to Europe banks, reserved banks, all the artifacts, the golds that have been reserved came from Africa, and it was stolen. And it was not just stolen. There's this stealing you steal without unaliving anyone, but this was stolen. But where those golds were being stolen, they left hundreds and hundreds and hundreds, thousands and thousands of people unalived. They have sacred artifacts, and they enriched themselves by carving Africa apart at the Berlin Conference. They sat down in Berlin Conference and shared Africa like a loaf of bread. Africa that had millions of people, children. They shared it as loaf of bread. But now, right now, I'm telling you free and fair that It's not a lie. You see, they are facing the crisis they cannot escape. They are facing this crisis they cannot escape. And while they are facing this crisis, Africa is rising. Okay, the very continent they looted never died. The very continent they stole it was never erased. Okay, right now we are rising. We are refusing to bow. The leaders they used to control right now are being rejected by the African youths. The youths they used to brainwash are standing up, and the future is shifting away from them. So, do you see the irony here? Do you see God's hand here? The same nations that told us that God that abandoned us, God has abandoned us as Africans. The same nations that painted black people as cursed are the ones trembling, are the ones shaking, are the ones collapsing right now. Okay? Now, look at black people, look at Africa, look at the diaspora, look at.
Now, hold on. Let me try to look this up. Uh, the global south. Okay. So we're going to go to the map, and this is good enough. And we're going to see the global south. All of the yellow is the global south, including Russia. But without Russia, then, you're looking at all of this. Australia, Russia, Europe, North America, Canada. That's the West, or white people. You got the Brent line. And then you got from South America, Central America, uh, South America, Central America, and Mexico, whatever the hell that is. And then you got the Gulf of Mexico, which is now the Gulf of America. I do believe it's the Indian Ocean. Africa is controlling all of the water, all of this. If you bring your funky asses up in there trying to save this, that, and the other, you're done for. Black folks ain't tolerating that shit. You can take that weak ass shit on and do on them and get on about your business and get the fuck on, because now we already know America is broke, Europe is broke, Russia is part of BRICS, which is a part of the global south, so you can't include that. So you just got all of this West and all of this part of the West, and all of this, the green part, is now the global south, where brown skinned people are. So we've been at war with these people for 150 years. We won already. Like I said, the white boy went to sleep thinking he can always be on top. It doesn't work that way. Evil will always destroy itself in the end, and those who partake in it. Always and in always. Always, ALWAYS, and in always, ALLWAYS. It never fails. You cannot build an empire on fraud, on evil, on death. It'll always come back and bite you in your own fucking ass. Period. So, hold on, I want to send this to someone right now. So when we're looking at this, we got to realize that, hey, something is amiss, something is going on. I can't put a finger on it. What you are seeing and what we are witnessing now is the uprising, or not the uprising, the forthcoming of a new power, a new age, a new hegemony, and that is black. Period. No ifs, ands, or buts about that. And black people are going to be in control, because the only people who can put the world back in order when the white boy and white girl put it all out of order by making good, bad, bad, good, injustice, justice, justice, injustice, and everything else. It's the black man and woman. We understand Ma'at. We understand the Ma'atic tempo and flow. And the only people that are going to be able to do that is black people. One continent, one currency, one people, one vote, one world domination is where we're going. And it's really simple to see that. So I then did what I had to do. So that would be hard. That would be the extent of what is going on. And if you can see it, God bless you. If you can't see it, I don't know what to tell you. It's going to be one, and it's just a changing of the guard. God's word has never not come back voided. We are the chosen people of God. We are the very essence and flow of the universe. We are the black universe filtered down in black skin, human form, and white folks are just an accident that happened in the belly of the black woman. They come from the Dravidian albino who made it with normal black people who created the octagon. They're the nastiest, disgusting, most violent people on the planet. Period. Hands down. And I'm not just saying that just to be saying it. I'm telling you what it is. And everybody knows it. China ain't forgot what they did to them, the opium wars, and before that, killing tens of millions of Chinese, interrupting the families throughout Asia and Japan, the Nagasaki and Hiroshima bomb. Do you really think that black folks, the brown skinned folks, don't forget? Oh, but China and Japan, they're not black. Bitch, shut the fuck up. The original Chinese and Japanese people were black. All right? Period. Now, if anybody want to come on my show and collect $10,000 in order to show that I'm lying or they can prove that I'm lying, I'll give you $10,000. But at the end of the day, which you're not going to be able to do, you're going to have to give me $1,000. And I know I got some easy money coming. All right? So let's get on back here, and we got 10 minutes of this. I'll be right back.
How, despite the centuries of pain, we are still rising in music, in culture, in style. The world copies us, from hip hop to Afrobeats, from fashion to language. Name all of them. Black expressions dominates global culture. Even when they mock us, even when they hate us, they cannot stop imitating us. And that is not just culture, that is power. That is spirituality or spiritual confirming that the chosen ones cannot be erased. Oh no, you cannot be erased, God's chosen people. So, in economies or economics right now, as Africans or black people, we are beginning to wake up because black America right now alone represent over 1.6 trillion in buying power. So if that buying power shifts to black on black business, that means we are going to break the internet, let me say that. Africa, on the same hand, is the home of fastest growing economics in the world. Countries like Ghana, Kenya, South Africa, name them, Nigeria, they are becoming hubs of innovation, technology, creativity. Even when the media tries to hide it, because the media will always focus on the negative side. For example, in Nigeria, the media will always focus on old president, Tinubu, a lot of people, corruption. In Kenya, the media will always focus on William Ruto, Gen Z protests and everything, but they will not protest on, or they will not focus, or they will not even try to say something positive about what's happening in Kenya. They won't say about the tech hubs. They won't say about the innovations, okay? They won't say about the creativity that is going on in Africa. They are trying to hide that. And spirituality is the most important part. We are waking up spiritual for generations and generations. For a number of years, they tried to strip our identity. They did that, but we are bringing it back. Okay? They cut us all off from our ancestors. They told us to worship their gods. They brought us their gods. They painted him white. And they told us that yours is fake. This is the real God. Yours is black magic. This is the real God. Right now, black people across the world are reconnecting. Right now, youth are questioning some preachers like, what the is this? Why do you teach us this? But we are questioning because we are realizing right now that believing our God was the worst mistake we did. But it is biblical, okay? It is prophecy. So black people are reconnecting right now. Yeah, we are realizing that the God of black people never left us, and he was simply waiting for the right time to reveal himself or
We left it. The God of black people didn't leave us. We left it. We stopped believing. But once we come back to the awareness of it all, it's over. And we have done that now. It's just a matter of it. I don't want to use that word, but we're going to say a matter of infecting, but in the matter of disseminating that truth. That's the better word.
Feel as black people as his chosen one. Okay? Really, I know you can feel it. I know you can feel it. You can feel it. You can feel it. You know, the protests that shake the streets. You can feel it in the way young Africans are rising, are rejecting colonial leaders. You can feel it in the way black people are demanding respect. You can feel it in the way black people, Caribbeans, are demanding reparation. You can feel it not just in America, but everywhere. If you're black, I know you can feel the shift. If you're black, I know you can feel that God's hand is in everything that we are doing. This is not just survival. This is a resurrection. If you don't feel resurrected as a black person, then let's connect more with the ancestors. Let's connect more with the God. Because I can feel the power shifting. I can feel the superpower shifting to the continent. I can feel the unity of black people across the world, across the global. It's causing. It is shaking the systems and empires, and they are just seeing dust. We got everything, starting from uranium. You know what I'm saying? That okay? Now, in a prophetic dimension, I'll say this: what you see happening right now is not just politics. It is not just economics. It is not just culture. What I say? Every empire does not last up to 250 or more than empires that some fell at 240 years, 250, around 255.
My name is Julia. I'm the CEO of Hello Prenup and Massachusetts Family Law Attorney. Hello Prenup is the first digital platform that allows couples to create a prenup in hours instead of months and for a fraction of the cost of traditional methods. I started Hello Prenup because I was working at a law firm and I was talking to potential prenup clients. And there were a couple different frustrations that they experienced. Well,
when our ancestors were chained in the belly of the slave ship, or the belly of the slave ship, many of them prophesied. With their last breath, they prophesied. They say that one day our children will rise. One day our suffering will turn into power. One day the nations that break us will themselves be broken. They prophesied. So this is prophecy. And they were not just empty words, okay? Those were declarations. Those words were declarations carried across generations, and now we are living in the fulfillment. I don't know if you have seen that. I'm grateful to be passing information. And if you knew this, but I'm reminding you day after day that you are strong, you are loved, you are beautiful, you are amazing, you are chosen one. Now, think about this for centuries. Europeans claimed that God was on their side. They made him. They brought him. They painted pictures of a white Jesus. They painted pictures of a white Mary, of a white heaven, and they made us black people believe that we were outside of divine favor. It's reality. Personally, I thought so. Personally, I thought so too. But ask yourself this question: how could the God of truth stand with the oppressors? How could the God of truth, could the God of justice stand with enslavers? How? The God of justice standing with colonizers and thieves? No. We were played. I don't know why we didn't knew that, but we were played for so long. The true creator, the God of black people, stood with us in the things, stood with black people in the chains, in the rebellion, in the struggle. Come on. And this is why the story of Hebrew in the Bible is so deeply with black people. Because when we read, we read of our chosen people enslaved in Egypt, crying out to God, waiting deliverance, we see ourselves. That's not coincidence. That is revelation, and we are the ones who carry the same story in our blood. Now, right now, the world is watching. Okay, the world is watching the same script played out. White nations, the modern pharaohs. You understand that they are falling into confusion. The plagues are hitting. Okay, while black people, on the other hand, are stepping into liberation. So the God of black people is making it clear: His chosen ones cannot be destroyed. Okay, and do you see why they fear us? They have been saying this why they fear us. It's not just because of our strength. It's not just because of our brilliance. It is because deep down they know the truth. They know the truth. The truth is that black people are the chosen people. And that is scary. That is scary. Even history confirms we are chosen. Even history confirms we are chosen. When Rome fell, Africa still stood. Britain, Africa still stood. Many kingdoms like Kush, Mali, and Ethiopia, were mighty. So when colonial powers carved Africa apart, they thought that we will never recover because we had our own empires, okay? But today, their empires are gone. Africa is still there. Africa is still uniting, refusing to go. Just imagine, Africa, we have gone through hell. We have gone through a lot. Black people have gone through a lot. But we manage somehow to come around and still smile in the midst of all this chaos. Black Americans, black people across the world, they've gone through oppression, they've gone through racism, they've gone through a lot of atrocities. But in one way or the other, they find ways to be the happiest people ever. They find ways to create the better system of thoughts, passions, music, name them. They are the entertainers of the world. They are the influencers of the world. They are everything of the world, inventors of everything. Okay? Under Jim Crow, under apartheid, for example, in South Africa, those who created apartheid, they fall. But black people, black South Africans are still there. They went through apartheid movement and now they are rising. Okay? So we have a lot to say. I have a lot to say on this. I'm seeing the hand of God and I can feel it. I can feel it. Black people have been rising. Leaders like Harriet Tubman, Marcus Garvey, Kwame Nkrumah, name them, Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, and many others. They were raised from among us to lead movements that shocks the globe. And that is not coincidence. That is divine orchestration. And today, African youths, today, diaspora creativity, my God, still leading the culture. So if black people were not the chosen ones, then we would have been erased by now. Yeah, that's the reality. Africa will never be there. Gone and gone forever. But instead, we are living proof of the God's hand on us. But I would say, God's hand rests on black people. Okay, and we are talking about political. We have Gen Zs now. I want to give modern science, but we are chosen. Look at the white Gen Zs. White Gen Zs right now are rejecting the systems of their parents and choosing black culture. Why? Because they know they are not sugarcoating. They wear our style, they speak our slang of black people, they praise music. Because the spirit of the chosen ones cannot be contained. Even those outsiders cannot resist gravitating towards black people. African politicians or African political landscape which is shifting. Nations like Burkina Faso, Mali, Nigeria are standing up and France is breaking. So everything white nations, while they descend into confusion, into mass shootings, drug epidemics, political chaos, black communities are discovering unity, rediscovering pride, rediscovering power and identity. The contrast is clear. If you are feeling this moment, if you are feeling it, tell me in the comment section. I have a lot to say, but I will say more on the next episode. Okay? Tell me what you think on the comment section. Until next episode, peace out.
All right, you heard him. So we are. Hey, brother Willie, I appreciate, man. Look, I couldn't do it Saturday. I'm pretty sure everybody was like, man, where he at? But it was my birthday. So that was the reason why I wasn't on Saturday night. So that's over and done with. I'm 52 now, sir. 52. I hope many more years coming. But I appreciate you guys and you, Brother Willie, for being here and everything. And, just a matter of time before we wake up and realize what the fuck is going on. We are the very essence of the black universe in human form. And we are the chosen people that have been put on this earth to keep it in balance, meiotic balance. We are the very essence and flow of the universe of this planet. And the only man, woman, people that can put it back in order is us. Yeah, I appreciate it, man. I appreciate it. Man, I got skunk drunk, dude, man. It's only one day out of the year I get skunk drunk, and that's on my birthday. So I don't, I'm not an alcoholic. But I had two beers. They call the beers here Presidente. And then I had a glass of rum and coke, sir. So after that, man, I went to, I went to, I would normally be in about 9:30, going to bed or going, getting tired, and rubbing my head and rubbing my chin like this. And you see me going like this and yawning about 9:30. You know, you know, I'm getting there. But anyway, I got in bed, man. I went dead sleep. My wife was like, "Oh snap, no cookie tonight." No, yeah, I was gone. But anyway, yeah, I appreciate it, man. You know, yeah, it's all good. It's all good, player. But yeah, we got to realize, bro. We got to realize that we are on the come up, and you know we're on the come up when white folks on YouTube can take down the videos of Supreme African Breaking News and Supreme African News. Man, I hated that motherfucking shit because that was basically my whole show. But you know, I believe they're gonna get back. I heard the last thing that I heard was that they were in the process of buying YouTube, and it's gonna open up a whole floodgate of a whole lot of black folk getting in the ass of white folk. Man, these motherfuckers are done. If you've seen part of that last video or the whole video, please check that out. Hold on, let me see what I can put that in here. Yeah, that's it. So check out that video, man. If you hadn't seen it all, well, it's like 30 minutes long. Then man, it's worth it. So let me go on. We're going to go on here. Breaking news. Gaddafi's son demand NATO and France return Libya's stolen gold to truth exposed. So let me subscribe to that. And man, it's over, man. Ain't no motherfucking way you can have these pedophile ass leaders of Europe and America and Canada fucking each other in the ass. And I mean, it's just disgusting, these motherfucking animals. I'm not saying that just out to be saying it. It's true. How do you have a leader whose wife is a fucking man and pretending? That's some shit for your ass. Some psychological bent shit. These white boys don't know what the fuck they're doing. They don't know what the fuck they're doing. They wouldn't know how to pour piss out of a boot, even if the directions said turn up. They're just dumb. Naturally speaking, dumb. They mediocre at best. And you know what, bro? White women don't want their ass. White girls don't want their motherfucking ass. They punk ass bitches. I'm just keeping that shit on 100, man. You know how we do on this show. So with all that being said, we're gonna go right on into this next video. It's only 15 minutes long. We're gonna go about 8 minutes, and then I'll be right back with the comment.
Told you Libya's greatest theft wasn't oil, but gold. More than a decade after NATO bombs reduced Libya to ruins, Saif al-Islam Gaddafi has made a demand that Western capitals never expected to hear. Return Libya's stolen gold. Not compensation, not aid, not apologies. Gold. The very reserves Muammar Gaddafi was using to back an African currency. Gold that vanished as jets filled the sky and liberation was declared. Now his son is forcing the question no government in Paris, Washington, or Brussels once asked, where is Libya's gold and who took it? Because if that gold is returned, it wouldn't just rewrite Libya's history. It could expose the real motive behind the 2011 war and unravel one of the West's most guarded secrets. Tonight we uncover the gold trail they hoped the world would forget. And once you hear the full story, you'll understand who actually took Libya's gold, who benefited from it, and why this demand has NATO and France panicking. Let's find out.
My dad can't lose weight with Tai Chi, so it's a scam?
Oh, no, he's probably just doing it wrong. Most men do Tai Chi wrong, and that's exactly why they can't lose weight. How old is your father?
He is 56.
Oh, perfect. By the end of November, you won't even recognize him.
But what if he hasn't worked out?
Sorry about that. I'll be
That's
right
even
back.
better.
Chapter 1. The gold that made Libya dangerous. Long before the first NATO jet crossed Libyan airspace, Muammar Gaddafi had already crossed a red line. It wasn't oil, it wasn't terrorism, it was gold. By 2010, Libya had quietly amassed one of the largest gold reserves in Africa, estimated at over 140 tons. But Gaddafi wasn't hoarding it for prestige or security. He had a plan that terrified Western financial powers, a gold-backed African currency.
not tied to the US dollar, not controlled by the IMF, not dependent on the euro or the French-backed CFA system. Gold, physical, sovereign, African. With that reserve, Gaddafi was lobbying African leaders to abandon Western-controlled currencies and trade oil, gas and minerals using a gold dinar. Oil-producing states would be paid in gold. African labor and resources would finally set their own price. To Paris, Washington and Brussels, this wasn't economic reform. It was financial rebellion. France stood to lose control over the CFA franc system that still tied 14 African nations to French reserves. The dollar's dominance in global energy trade faced a direct challenge. The IMF and World Bank saw a precedent that could spread far beyond Libya. And then something strange happened. Just months after discussions around the gold dinar intensified, Libya was declared a humanitarian emergency. Suddenly, the same country praised for high living standards became a threat to its own people. Suddenly, regime change gained moral urgency. Suddenly, NATO moved fast, very fast, and while the world watched the bombs, something else disappeared. Libya's gold, not destroyed, not accounted for, not recovered, just gone. And today, Saif al-Islam Gaddafi is reopening that file, forcing the world to answer a question it successfully buried in 2011. If the war was about saving civilians, why did Libya's gold vanish the moment the regime fell? And more importantly, who had the power, access and motive to take it? Before we dive deeper, like this video, subscribe and personalize the bell icon so you don't miss what this channel is about to uncover. Chapter 2, The Night the Gold Disappeared. Officially, Libya's gold never disappeared. On paper, it sat safely in the vaults of the central bank in Tripoli, tens of billions in reserves, quietly backing the dinar, and, according to many reports, forming the backbone of Gaddafi's plan for an African gold-backed currency, breaking Africa away from Western financial control. But wars don't follow paperwork. As NATO jets roared overhead in 2011 and foreign media framed the chaos as liberation, something else was happening far from the cameras. Away from the explosions, away from the front lines, convoys began moving at night. When the bombs started falling, Libya's central banking system collapsed overnight. Vaults were abandoned, records went dark, and amid the chaos something extraordinary happened. The gold stopped being mentioned, no official NATO report accounted for it. No clear transfer to a successor Libyan government ever appeared. No UN audit resolved its fate. Instead, the narrative shifted, fast. Western media focused on humanitarian intervention, on protecting civilians, on democracy, but never on what was quietly moved while the world was watching explosions instead of balance sheets. Multiple African and Middle Eastern officials later confirmed the same thing privately. The gold was removed during the opening phase of the war, before militias controlled Tripoli, before institutions collapsed, before anyone was officially in charge. That timing matters, because to access and extract sovereign gold during active conflict, three things are required: military access, air superiority, institutional cover. In 2011, only one alliance had all three, and suddenly flights left Libya that were never publicly logged. Assets were temporarily secured, and NATO forces declared the mission complete, but Libya never got its gold back. The question is no longer whether the gold was taken. The real question is who moved it first, and why. Because what we're about to uncover next isn't speculation. It's the paper trail that leads straight into Europe's financial core. And once you see that trail, you'll understand why this story was never meant to surface. Chapter 3. Who had access, power, and silence? Gold does not disappear by accident. Especially not state gold, guarded, recorded, tracked, and watched. For Libya's gold to vanish, three things were required: access, power, and absolute silence. And very few actors on earth possessed all three. When Tripoli fell into chaos in 2011, Libya's central institutions collapsed almost overnight. But one place was secured faster than any hospital, parliament, or bank: the routes out of Libya. NATO controlled the skies, Western-backed forces controlled the ports,
and intelligence agencies flooded the country under the banner of stabilization, this meant something critical. Nothing large left Libya without being seen.
Want to impress your family by Christmas? Start doing Tai Chi to tone and heal body.
Gold does not move in suitcases. It moves in protected convoys, secured cargo holds, and coordinated clearances. Any transfer required authorization, or force powerful enough to bypass it. And only one coalition had that reach. Western governments insist they never touched Libya's reserves. They say the gold vanished amid chaos, but chaos doesn't erase flight logs. Chaos doesn't override customs records. Chaos doesn't silence every official involved, unless someone orders that silence. Libyan banking officials who once handled reserve documentation were removed, disappeared, or forced into exile. Records went missing. Audits were never completed, and international inquiries quietly stalled. Why? Because asking too loudly invites an uncomfortable reality that the same powers who claimed to be protecting Libya's assets were the only ones capable of moving them. France had motive, NATO had control, global finance had incentive, and silence. Silence was guaranteed by diplomatic immunity, classified operations, and media alignment. This wasn't a robbery carried out in the dark. It was a removal carried out in plain sight, protected by power. But here's the mistake they didn't anticipate. Saif al-Islam Gaddafi is not asking politely. By naming the gold, by naming the demand, he is reopening files that were never meant to breathe again. And now the question is whether Libya's gold was taken. The question is, what happens if the evidence finally surfaces and the silence breaks? Chapter 4. Follow the beneficiaries. Gold does not simply vanish. When billions disappear, someone becomes richer, more powerful, and more protected. After Libya collapsed, its financial silence was immediate. Statements stopped, audits disappeared. Questions were buried under rubble, and while Western leaders spoke of democracy and stabilization, something very quiet was happening behind closed vaults and balance sheets. Across Europe, banks that once had limited exposure to Libyan funds suddenly showed unusual liquidity. Gold markets stabilized at critical moments. Currency pressures eased, not publicly explained, not officially connected, just conveniently timed. At the same time, Libya's frozen assets were being managed, not returned, not accounted for, but redistributed through legal fog. This is where the story turns uncomfortable. Because the gold wasn't stolen by chaos, it was absorbed by structure. Institutions that specialize in custody, reserves, and temporary safeguards. Governments that had the legal authority to seize assets during conflict. And allies who controlled the post-war financial narrative. No vault was broken into. No convoy was hijacked on camera. This was not a crime scene. It was a transfer. And transfers leave paperwork. Hidden in EU reports, IMF disclosures, and central bank opacity rules are gaps that grow wider the deeper.
Well, I tell you, when I heard that the son of Gaddafi was coming back into control of Libya, that means vengeance. You cannot kill my father. And don't expect all hell to come upon your fucking head. All your goddamn members of your family are going to die. There's no prison time. There's no prison time. Only death is coming to you. And the death certificate for white people across the globe, Europe, America, Canada, Australia, all the evil that you have done is coming back to you a billionfold. Your heart will race with fear and your mind will never know another day of rest. Nothing. You don't deserve it. You had all the time in the world to do the right thing. You never did it. So fuck you. Fuck you. Your kids are going to die. Your numbers in the world are shrinking like a motherfucker. 85% of the people who took the vaccine were white. That means you were castrated, chemically castrated. You can't have babies. Your birth rate was already low. It was like 0.09 when I wrote my book, The White Man's Burden of Lies and Deceit, in 2017, that it became published. So now, after the vaccine, like a motherfucking dummy, you took that shit, now it's down around about 0.03. To maintain a population, you need 2.1 or better. Black people, 9. Mexicans, 101. That's it. You motherfuckers are on the way out. If we don't do shit, your bitch gonna be on this black dick. Cause y'all done. Been done. There's no escaping justice. I'll be right back.
Look, amounts don't match, dates don't align, statements contradict themselves. Libya was told its gold was secured. But secured for whom? Because while Libya collapsed into militia rule and darkness, others gained financial breathing room at a critical global moment. And that raises the most dangerous question of all. If Libya's gold didn't disappear, and it wasn't destroyed, and it wasn't lost, then who is still sitting on it today? And why are they refusing to talk? Because the next chapter doesn't follow the gold anymore. It follows the silence. Chapter 5, Saif Gaddafi's demand changes everything. For more than a decade, Libya's stolen gold was treated as an untouchable subject. Too sensitive, too dangerous, too inconvenient. Until now, when Saif al-Islam Gaddafi publicly demanded the return of Libya's gold, it wasn't a symbolic statement. It was a direct challenge to the foundations of the 2011 war narrative. Because demanding the gold does something no speech, protest, or lawsuit ever could. It forces the world to revisit what was taken and why. This is no longer about Gaddafi's past. It's about evidence. Gold does not disappear by accident. Gold leaves a trail through vaults, shipping manifests, financial clearinghouses, and state-level approvals. For Saif, reclaiming the gold isn't only about money, it's about forcing accountability onto the global stage. If NATO
Damn. Hold on.
France agree to return it, they silently admit it was taken. If they refuse, they expose the lie that Libya's collapse was ever about protecting civilians. That's the trap Saif has set. And this is why Western responses have been deliberately vague. No flat denials, no clear explanations. Only silence, deflection, and carefully worded statements about complex post-conflict realities. Because answering a simple question, far more than anyone is prepared for, where is Libya's gold, would unravel. And now something remarkable is happening inside Libya itself. Saif's demand has unified voices that rarely agree. Tribes, former officials, young Libyans who never lived under his father, but understand one thing clearly. Libya was stripped, not saved. This demand has reframed the war, not as a humanitarian intervention, but as Africa's most expensive daylight robbery. And if Saif succeeds, if records surface, vaults are named, transfers exposed, this won't end with Libya. It will force a reckoning across Africa, across NATO, across Europe. Because once one country proves its wealth was stolen under the cover of liberation, every other intervention comes under suspicion. This is why the pressure is building. This is why the silence is growing louder. And this is why Saif Gaddafi's demand changes everything. Because the moment Libya's gold is acknowledged, the real story of the war can no longer be contained. If the gold comes back, the truth comes with it. If Libya's gold is returned, it won't just restore lost wealth, it will restore memory. Because gold doesn't disappear by accident. It moves through hands with power, through systems designed to leave no fingerprints, protected by silence that only empires can afford. If that gold comes back, the story of 2011 changes forever. The war stops being about humanitarian intervention and becomes what many always suspected: a calculated operation to stop an African economic rebellion before it began. That is why this demand matters, not just for Libya, but for Africa. Because if Libya proves its gold was stolen, then every African nation that lost resources under intervention, stabilization, or aid will start asking the same question. What was taken from us, and who is still holding it? Saif al-Islam Gaddafi's demand isn't a threat, it's a test of whether the truth can still surface, or whether silence will be defended at any cost. So now the question comes to you. If NATO and France have nothing to hide, why are they so afraid of this demand? Share your thoughts in the comments. Like this video so more people see it. Subscribe to Afro Culture Diary and turn on notifications, because the next chapter of this story about where the gold leads next is already unfolding. If the gold comes back, the truth comes with it.
All right, we're down to the last two, ladies and gentlemen. This one is 13 minutes long, and the last one is 9 minutes long. So we got about a half an hour left, roughly. So we're going to be done at about maybe 10, 15 or so, minus my comment, or with addition of my comment. So, but yeah, it looks like the black man's war, what the white boy fears. And it's just a matter of time. And it's not going to be long either. It's not going to be long. I'm going to give it, what is it, 25? I'll give it 3 years. For the total control of the world is in black hands. And just getting stronger and stronger and stronger every day thereafter. Get like it is getting stronger now. But the proclamation is very, very, very deep, wide, and tall. And that is black supremacy and black superiority taking center stage. Now I'll be right back and we'll close it out on the last one, which is, 9 minutes, 10 minutes long. Let that noise go by. Okay, and I'll be right back. I'm just gonna let it play out.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome once again to History and Legacy Africa. Listen carefully. The Sahel has acted. The red line of anger is drawn. There is an unexpected clash between the Sahel states, Nigeria and France. Burkina Faso and the AES have seized a Nigerian aircraft carrying 11 soldiers on board after the aircraft violated the airspace of Burkina Faso by forced landing in Bobo Dioulasso without prior notice to Burkina Faso. Nigeria, under France's orders, sent a series of aircraft with their military to Benin to help thwart the coup, led by Colonel Pascal Tigris. They violated Burkina Faso's airspace, and the AES have responded. The aircraft has been seized, and the 11 soldiers from Nigeria are detained by the Burkinabe army.
La Confédération des États du Sahel informe l'opinion qu'un aéronef appartenant à l'armée de l'air de la République fédérale du Nigeria, de type C-130, a été contraint de se poser ce jour 8 décembre 2025 à Bobo Dioulasso, au Burkina Faso, à la suite d'une situation d'urgence en vol, alors qu'il évoluait dans l'espace aérien burkinabé.
This is a geopolitical earthquake. Under the ICAO Convention on International Civil Aviation, every nation has total airspace sovereignty. Violating that is strongly against the law, and the aircraft can be taken down. In this case, the AES is completely right. Nigeria is in massive trouble for stepping in to protect the Benin puppet. The AES has issued a massive communique, a warning of iron will to the entire collapsing Western Empire. The statement was signed by President General Assimi Goïta, the leader of Mali, and one of the 3 pillars of the AES. The warning is simple, direct, and final. Any other aircraft violating its airspace will be taken down. This is not a threat. It is a pledge of sovereignty. Mali's Minister of Defense confirmed this in a press briefing. 11 military men from Nigeria have been arrested and detained for violating their airspace. The Sahel has been pushed too far. Nigeria, in its desperate rush to save its puppet ally Patrice Talon, committed an act that has now drawn the line of anger.
Stop!
Hold on.
Let me tell you about the Institutional Black Friday deal. For just 27.
The relationship between the Sahel states and Nigeria has been totally broken ever since the AES took power. The Sahel leaders accuse Nigeria and Ivory Coast of always assisting France. They gave France security details about the Sahel and supported the removal of the patriotic AES leaders. Nigeria's leadership is more interested in keeping their own power and their slave masters happy than the development of their own citizens.
That's a
They
damn
want
shame.
foreign bases and foreign aid. They want to restore democracy in the Sahel only for the return of their foreign masters.
You know, as Africa goes into the final months before the actualization of the United States of Africa, even now with the one constitution, even now, this is treason. And with treason, if you commit it, it's death. This fucking nigga need to go. He don't give a damn about his own people. He's not black first. He's not black second. He's not black third. He's just a nigga, a white man's bitch, getting fucked in his ass, whether literally or figuratively, by a white boy in France who's fucking his male wife. You see that how crazy this shit is? France ain't got shit. They're playing the Wizard of Oz game. And all you gotta do is just pull the curtain back and you'll see this little bitch of a man pretending, a little bitch of a boy pretending to be a man. This bitch slapped the shit out of him economically, politically, spiritually, and physically when it is necessary, and it is necessary. I would not be surprised, not one bit, if France, head of France, Macron, and his man bitch ass wife are killed. Everybody's in the uproar. France doesn't have anything. They have no gold. They don't have any gold mine. And they're going to be forced to give all that gold back and forcing their country into a deeper hole, economically speaking. And what's going to happen is that Africa is going to buy up everything in France and make it a black holiday. Therefore, for whenever Africans want to go to France, if you hurt on one hair on an African American visiting there, African from the continent visiting, you're going to die. You see, because, it is what it is. We're sick and tired of these motherfuckers trying to pretend like they are civilized and they're not. We civilized these bitches and these bastards 3 times and they still don't know what the fuck that means. Once in Egypt, once in Greece and Rome, and from 700 to 1492, really 1880. Again, 3 strikes, you're out, bitch. That's it. The world is sick and tired of you lying, scheming, conniving, murderous motherfuckers. And you're going to get what you have given out to the world. The sins of the mother and father shall be visited upon their children. Period.
The seizure of the Nigerian aircraft is the direct result of Nigeria's shameful betrayal of the African Revolution. The Sahel is telling them, if you are ready to protect puppet leaders who starve his citizens to feed the foreigner, then keep away from using our airspace. The final choice is now with Nigeria. They have betrayed the Sahel to France, and now they must face the consequences of their actions. The seizure of the Nigerian aircraft is not an isolated incident. It is the final clash resulting from Nigeria's betrayal of the African Revolution. The relationship between the Sahel states and Nigeria is completely broken, and the reason is the gold of sovereignty. The AES leaders, President General Assimi Goïta, Captain Ibrahim Traoré, and Colonel Abdurrahmane Chiani, see the leadership of Nigeria and Ivory Coast as nothing but puppets. They are more interested in keeping their own power and serving their foreign masters than the development of their own citizens. The Sahel leaders say Nigeria and Ivory Coast always assisted France. They gave France secret security details about the Sahel and actively supported the French desire for the removal of the patriotic AES leaders. Nigeria, which used to be the head of the ECOWAS body, shares a completely different view from the AES. Nigeria wants foreign bases on African soil. They want foreign aid that comes with wicked strings attached. They want to restore democracy in the Sahel only for the return of their foreign masters. France. The Sahel believes Africa is massively rich. No African deserves to face hardship. They believe Africans are capable of managing their own resources instead of giving them away to foreigners. This clash of views has completely destroyed the relationship between these nations. Nigeria chose the collapsing empire. The AES chose sovereignty. The heart of this conflict is the gold, the uranium, and the massive wealth that the Sahel leaders refuse to give to the West anymore. They know that Nigeria, by helping the puppet Patrice Talon in Benin, was indirectly helping themselves and their slave masters. Nigeria knows that if they had allowed the Benin coup to succeed, the next government to be overthrown would be theirs. Why? Because they share the same region, and they share the same policy of protecting foreign plunderers over their own people. Nigeria's act of violating Burkina Faso's airspace, a massive crime under international law, was a desperate attempt to save a system that benefits only the puppet elite and the French Empire. They were trying to stop the revolution from spreading to their own doorstep. Now, Nigeria faces a tough situation. They betrayed the Sahel to France, and now their soldiers are captured by the very patriots they betrayed. How do they approach the Sahel again for the release of their 11 men? They have two choices. If they use force or threaten the AES, a total continental war is likely to happen. The AES is ready and willing to fight any war the West brings. If they use calm diplomacy, the Sahel is more likely to reject them. The AES has drawn the line of anger and knows Nigeria is only acting on behalf of France. Nigeria is trapped. They prioritized France over their brothers in the Sahel, and now they must pay the price of their betrayal. The AES is completely right in their action, and Nigeria.
This is what I'm talking about. They're not black first. If you're not black first, you die. Just the end result to that. If you're not black first, then you die. Just that fucking plain and simple.
Nigeria is in massive trouble. The entire world is now watching the tense standoff in Bobo Dioulasso. The seizure of the Nigerian aircraft is not a rash act. It is a massive act of sovereignty, justified by the iron law of international aviation. The Alliance of Sahel States, AES, is completely right in its actions. This is the unbreakable truth. The AES is not fighting anarchy. They are fighting for order and dignity. They are upholding the highest principles of international law, which the wicked coalition of Nigeria and France believes they can violate. The seizure of the aircraft and the detention of the 11 Nigerian soldiers is a just, legal, and unbreakable response. The AES has drawn the line of anger and is telling the world, the time of disrespect is over. The communique released by the AES was signed by President General Assimi Goïta, the unbreakable leader of Mali and the intellectual backbone of the alliance. Goïta's warning is not just paper. It is a pledge of fire. Any other aircraft violating its airspace will be taken down for security reasons. This warning is directed straight at the collapsing French Empire and its puppet, Nigeria. France is no longer safe. The old colonial games of secretly moving troops across African skies to save gold are finished. Try to violate the airspace, and you will face the iron will of the AES air defense. Nigeria's attempt to play the military wing for France has cost them 11 men and an aircraft. Do not test the alliance again. If you want war, the AES is ready to crash the next one. The AES is showing the world that they are not afraid. They are not a weak colonized state. They are an alliance ready to fight and defend every inch of their air and land sovereignty. The leaders of the Sahel believe that Africa is rich and no African deserves to face hardship. They believe they are capable of managing their own resources instead of allowing foreigners to plunder them. This belief is the root of the conflict. Nigeria's leadership, which supports foreign bases and foreign aid, cannot understand this purity of patriotism. They see democracy only as a tool to bring back the foreign masters. This is why the AES is telling Nigeria, if you are ready to protect puppet leaders who starve his citizens to feed the foreigner, then keep away from using our airspace. Nigeria is in massive trouble. They must now face the reality of their betrayal. They gambled on saving a puppet and lost their men. Their next move will decide whether this tense standoff escalates into a total continental war. The AES has drawn the line of anger, and they are not moving. The world media is screaming, crisis, but the truth is simple. The Sahel is right. Nigeria committed an international crime by violating the sovereignty of Burkina Faso. The Alliance of Sahel States, AES, is not acting on anger alone. They are acting on international law. The ICAO Convention on International Civil Aviation is the iron rule. Every nation has its airspace sovereignty. Violating that sovereignty is strongly against the law, and the aircraft can be taken down. Nigeria was so desperate to save Patrice Talon in Benin and protect its own collapsing regime that it sent military aircraft without permission, thinking the Sahel was weak and silent. They were massively wrong. ECOWAS are now silent. They issued statements condemning the coup in Benin, but now their biggest member, Nigeria, has been caught in a massive act of aggression. The AES has exposed the lies of the entire system. The Sahel leaders know that Nigeria and Ivory Coast have been assisting France by giving them security details and supporting the removal of the patriotic AES leaders. They want foreign bases and the return of their foreign masters. This seizure has two massive geopolitical consequences. France's attempt to use Nigeria as its military muscle to thwart the Benin coup is now in total shame. France pushed Nigeria into an illegal act, and now they are the ones paying the price with 11 captured soldiers. Nigeria must now swallow its pride and approach the Sahel they betrayed to France for the release of their men. The relationship is completely broken. The Sahel has given Nigeria a clear, unbreakable message. If you are ready to protect puppet leaders who starve his citizens to feed the foreigner, then keep away from using our airspace. This is a total diplomatic defeat for Nigeria. They wanted to be the head of ECOWAS, but now they are kneeling before the unbreakable will of the Sahel Alliance. The AES leaders are not fighting for power. They are fighting for dignity and economic justice. They see the leadership of Nigeria as hypocritical and only interested in keeping power rather than the massive development of their citizens. The Sahel Alliance is done playing. They will not release these 11 men for a simple apology. They will use these prisoners as massive leverage to demand total sovereignty for the entire region. Colonel Assimi Goita, the unyielding leader who signed the warning against further airspace violation, will lay down unbreakable demands for Nigeria's release of its men. Nigeria must immediately pull out every single troop and warplane sent to Benin to thwart the coup. This must be a public surrender of the colonial mission. Nigeria must issue a public apology to the AES for assisting France with security details and supporting the removal of patriotic leaders. They must confess their wicked betrayal. The AES will not negotiate on money or time. They will only negotiate on principle and dignity. This confrontation has now become a war of principles. The AES is fighting for a continent where its gold is used to build hospitals and buy weapons, while Nigeria is fighting for a system that keeps Africans poor and dependent on the collapsing West. Nigeria is in massive trouble. They must choose between the shameful humiliation of accepting the AES demands or the total destruction of a continental war. The world is watching as the giants of the past are forced to kneel before the unbreakable spirit of the second independence. The Sahel has sounded its last warning. They are done playing games, and Nigeria knows that. If anyone wants war, the Sahel is ready. This is History and Legacy Africa. Like and subscribe.
All right, you heard him. All right, I did do that. Okay. Hold on. So you heard him. Just a matter of time. Hold on. Bit of that.
I learned that ChatGPT works better.
So we're down to the last video, and it's dealing with the lie that broke my trust. Hold on, let me send this to someone. All right, and we'll pass this on to here as well. Hold on. Okay, so we're down to the last one, and it's only 9 minutes long, so I'm gonna let it play all the way out. Then we'll go into the closing comments, and that'll be it.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all Africans across the continent and throughout the diaspora. My name is Akoswa Prempe, proudly broadcasting from the United States of Africa TV. Today, we bring you a critical update on the rising tensions in West Africa involving Nigeria, Benin, and the AES alliance. The situation is developing rapidly, and what you're about to hear carries serious implications for regional security, African sovereignty, and the future of unity on our continent. In this report, you will learn how military aircraft linked to Nigeria entered Beninese territory, how the AES forces responded, and why many are raising deep concerns about foreign influence, manipulation, and the growing threat of imperialist interference in Africa's internal affairs. As always, our mission is to inform, to empower, and to unite. So before we continue, I encourage all viewers watching right now to subscribe, like, comment, and share this broadcast. Help us connect Africans everywhere and amplify the truth that mainstream media will never show. United we rise. United we defend. United we build the Africa our ancestors dreamed of. Now stay with us as we dive deeper into this urgent situation.
December 7th, let's get right back to it. People of Africa, the situation is starting to escape the control of the Macronist junta. We said it would happen. Emmanuel Macron is manipulating Nigeria, manipulating Bola Ahmed Tinubu. We ask the question, does he understand the gravity of what he was doing in Benin? This is very serious. For the elected president of Nigeria to decide to send planes or whatever they are from Nigeria or from France under the cover of Nigeria to bomb the people of Benin. And the majority of those being bombed are civilians. This is unacceptable. All for an internal situation within Benin. There is absolutely no legal basis, no justification whatsoever for this aggression by Bola Ahmed Tinubu, who is only obeying because he's being blackmailed with compromising information held by the DGSE and the CIA. For Bola Ahmed Tinubu to decide to go and bomb Benin is unacceptable. And in their madness, they dare to let their plane wander into Burkina Faso's airspace, trying to test us. That is when the forces, the defense and security forces, the confederal forces reacted immediately. The plane was forced to land. Otherwise, that plane would have been shot down. With the 2 crew members and the 9 soldiers who were on board. So we have more or less 11 military personnel as a gift. They are now prisoners of war. Our countries are not at war, but what they did is a declaration of war. Nothing more, nothing less. These are people who are now prisoners. They must, if they are not to be considered prisoners of war, they must explain. If they are not at war with us, why did they enter the airspace of the AES with a military aircraft? And in that case, if the status of prisoner of war does not apply to these people, then they will answer for violating the airspace of the AES, for espionage against the AES, for attempted intimidation of the AES, and for undermining the credibility of the Burkinabe state. We will bring 1,000 charges against them. They'll see. Because I just don't understand how an African can be so ignorant. An African like Tinubu. Emmanuel Macron wants peace in Europe. He says everyone must support Ukraine for a just peace. Yet this same Emmanuel Macron treats you like sheep, like cattle, and sends you to the slaughter. In a place where no little Frenchman should die, he sends Nigerian children to go and eliminate Beninese children. I mean, wait, is this serious? Tinubu, what happened in Guinea-Bissau? If you are truly honest and sincere, did you not see that? Why didn't you go and bomb them? Because over there, they pick and choose which coups to support. What about the coup d'etat, the one by Emmanuel Macron? Because the president who carried out the coup in Guinea-Bissau and Ballon, when Emmanuel Macron took off his jacket, he also took off his...
Hey, I'm here, head coach at Leverage. We believe everyone has the potential to become a successful trader. All you need is the...
So for that, he's a good disciple, a good little follower of Emmanuel Macron. Everything he does is good. You pick and choose your coups, you are not fair. You are dishonest. Emmanuel Macron has received people who have carried out coup d'etat. Didn't he calmly receive Oligui Nguema from Gabon? Didn't he receive others? Didn't Ouattara do the same thing? And some African officers said, no, don't take a picture with them. And then these Africans, good students, good disciples of the imperialists, just calmly stop and say they won't take a photo. I mean, aren't you ashamed? Where do you come from? And they are so, you know what's really serious? It's when they leave you your body and then they take control of your brain. That's what hurts. I see some Africans saying, yes, the only way to get to power is through the ballot box. I'm like, your great-grandfather, did he know about these ballot boxes you're talking about? We had our own way of choosing leaders. It's not what Macron said. It's not what France says. It's not what Mitterrand says. All the African Democrats, not Western Democrats, were eliminated at the time of Africa's independence. One of the first political parties to allow African states to achieve independence was the RDA, the African Democratic Rally. But tell me, what did they do to the leaders of this RDA? Victor Bianca Boda, do you want us to talk about how he ended his life? Modibo Keita, do you want us to talk about how he ended his life? So who else do you want? All those leaders were eliminated in a way that is not at all pretty. Not at all. So, people of Africa, what is happening today? The AES countries have been clear. We made that plane from Benin Land. We have arrested the soldiers who are on board. And from now on, the anti-aircraft defense systems of the entire AES, I say the systems, I don't say the system. Those systems are activated. Any aircraft that violates the airspace will be shot down. We must destroy that aircraft, purely and simply, and that will be a declaration of war. I knew it. For those who are asking us what the AES is doing and so on, be patient. They went to get Emmanuel Macron. If that's how it is, we also have partners. We salute President Putin, by the way. When the going gets tough, only the tough get going. People of Africa, we thank you. And we hope to see you again very soon. Stay connected, stay attentive. And Patrice Talon called Tinubu. Did General Pascal Tigiri call the leaders of the AES? I wouldn't know how to answer. Tinubu, he called Emmanuel Macron. Will the AES countries also call their partners? So let Africans not be surprised. Don't be surprised to say, but in the end, the war of the imperialists will be brought to Africa, precisely in the ECOWAS space in Benin. We'll meet them there. Tell the cause to stay out of it. For now, we are peaceful in the AES space. They came to provoke us. We haven't provoked anyone. They are the ones who came to provoke us. And whoever looks for trouble finds it. For now, we are peaceful. We have not declared war. We are waiting. But anyone who violates our airspace by a single centimeter, our countries are militarized, The terrorists we're fighting are heavily armed imperialist mercenaries. They are facing the music. Our tankers are moving around peacefully. And anyone who dares, we will test our missiles on someone. Drumming. It's going to be fine. We are waiting. We are following the situation in Benin very closely. We don't know what will happen tomorrow, but that's what we have to say. Thank you, and see you very soon. Thank you for staying with us and for standing with the movement for a stronger, united Africa. Your voice matters, and your engagement helps shape the direction of our collective future. We want to hear from you. Here are my questions for you today. Question 1. Do you believe the actions taken by Nigeria and its foreign allies threaten the sovereignty and security of other African nations? Why or why not? Question 2. What should the AES countries do next to protect African airspace and prevent external interference in our continent? Please leave your thoughts in the comments. Your opinion is powerful, and together we speak with one African voice.
Here we go, ladies and gentlemen. Here we go. We're out, and we're going to close it out with my final comment that really simple. Fuck all white folks. FAWF. They ain't about a motherfucking thing but destruction, disease, despair, death. The 4 Ds. That's it. It is incumbent upon us to really bring this world out of the deep depth of hell that it's been through. And that's the black man and the black woman. So I'm going to close it out with this thing from X that the white guy wrote. And if it doesn't get you to think and to say fuck all white folks, I don't know what will. I really don't. Hold on. So we're gonna go to it, and that'll be our last thing that we're gonna be focusing in on, and they're gonna run through it. Should be coming up real soon. So hold on, coming up on it. Wow, I'm gonna have to bury it on a lot of things. Hold on, it's coming up. Don't worry. Yeah, I'm gonna have to kind of like make this uh, obvious in the first few rather than way, way, way down here. So hold on. Here we are. So, Penny Sanders, he said, can I ask you why you black people are so goddamn passive? We kill your children, mock you, take your riches, take your land, convince you God is white, cause so many problems of self-hate in your community, keep you poor, take your history, Egypt, take your opportunity, and make your children believe the only heroes in the world are white men. And then you continue to give us the benefit of a doubt. We lock you up, and you still have us walking around like everything is okay. When will you stop calling on to Jesus and do for your goddamn self, nigga? Y'all just niggas until you wake up. Is this how you reacted when we came to conquer you? Well, you didn't conquer. I was a black on black crime. This is bloody pathetic. I see no Moors here. Even he knows you are a Moor. You're not black. All I see are confused monkeys. He's right. So, hold on. I want to pass this on to someone. And I'm be done for today. So, we are done, ladies and gentlemen. I want to thank you for those who came and stayed for as long as you could. Hopefully, those who will see this video will come to understand where we are. And hopefully, we'll come to the point where we are truly united, because the worst enemy we have is amongst each other. We already know everybody else outside of this who got light skin, damn near pale skin. Even the pale skinned Arabs are not our real friends. Hell, maybe even the darker skinned ones are not either. But we know who we are, where we are, and how we are, and why we are where we are today. So it's important to kill your enemies so you don't have to worry about your friends. You keep your enemy close, keep your friends close, but your enemies closer. True words from a Stoicist and true words from a Machiavelli. So with that being said, for the next 24/7, 365, stay black.